It's Friday, January 16th. This is CTV at 6. Here's what's making news tonight. China removes tariffs on some seafood, including lobster, as part of a trade deal. After weeks of slipping prices, what's behind today's sudden jump at the pumps?
Some snow and flurries in the weekend forecast, but heavier snow is possible for Nova Scotia and Prince Edward Island Sunday night.
Live from our Maritime's News Center, this is CTV News at 6. Here is Todd Battis.
Good Friday evening. Maritime lobster exporters say a sudden breakthrough with China could help revive one of their most important markets. Under the trade deal, a 25% tariff will come off lobster starting March 1st. CTV's Jesse Thomas has the details.
The Lobster Council of Canada says exports to China dropped sharply after the 25% Chinese tariff was slapped on seafood exports. Now there's some surprising relief.
Focus on 5 key areas where both our nations stand to make substantial and sustained gains.
As Prime Minister Mark Carney wraps up meetings in China, Ottawa confirms tariffs on Canadian crab and lobster are coming off March 1st.
Oh, it's great news. It's great news. Federal government has been working hard. The delegation that went to China clearly have done a lot of work.
While Canadian lobster faced steep tariffs in China, exporters from other countries moved in to fill the gap.
The Vietnamese lobster, Australian lobster is back in after being out for 4 years. So we got some work to do to make sure they remember us.
So when news broke that tariffs would be rolled back, even industry veterans were caught off guard.
I would say considerable surprise. I thought improvements would follow in the weeks and months to come. I did not expect an agreement of any specific sort today.
20% of Canada's global seafood exports go to China. Before the tariffs, Nova Scotia shipped nearly $600 million worth of live lobster to China each year.
In the last 10 months, our business in the People's Republic of China essentially dried up.
Lamont says he's had clients in China reach out already, a sign the market may be hungry for Canadian seafood. Jesse Thomas, CTV News, Dartmouth.
In tonight's CTV web poll, we're asking, how do you feel about Canada making trade deals with China? And the options are, I agree with it, it's the right move. I don't love it, but I understand why we're doing it. Or I disagree with it, we should not be working with China. Now, after 6:30, CTV pollster Nick Nanos will weigh in on this in the Friday Politics section. And there's more details of the trade deal. And you can vote on that poll at ctvnewsatlantic.ca. In the past few minutes, we've received reports of an earthquake in northern New Brunswick. Let's bring in CTV meteorologist Kalen Mitchell. Kalen, you got an email from a viewer in the area, and what did they tell you, and what do we know about what happened up there?
Yeah, so the email report came in from Blair Baisley, so I want to thank Blair very much for reaching out. It's in the Trout Brook area of the north of New Brunswick, which is near the epicenter of this small earthquake. It was reported as occurring at around 4:42 p.m., magnitude 2.4, so relatively small earthquake, but enough that there were some reports of some rumbling and some shaking in the area. The depth that it occurred is about 13 kilometers. There, of course, are no major earthquake faults in the vicinity of the Maritimes, but these small earthquakes can happen from time to time. I know one of our news producers made some calls as well up to the Miramichi area to some people they know to see if they felt anything. They did not, but that is not uncommon with an earthquake this small. And you can see the vicinity of Trout Brook right near the epicenter, which was probably why it was felt a little bit more there, Todd.
All right, switching to weather, and there is weather. Some snow squalls have been kicking up around the region?
Yes, that's right. So this occurred as this sort of gusty and cold west wind kind of took over, turned the back edge of this weather system. There have been some rain and some showers over to those flurries and snow squalls. So let's take a look at where some of these squalls are still occurring at this hour. And these could be around for the next couple of hours, but the situation is expected to improve as we make our way through tonight. A couple bands of squalls coming in through eastern areas of New Brunswick, moving down towards the southeast, including towards areas like Havelock and Moncton. And then in Nova Scotia, we have some bands of snow squalls up in and around the Minas Basin, including coming across parts of the number 2 as you get south of Truro and down towards more central areas of the province. So any of those roads, those highways leading between Halifax and the Annapolis Valley, leading up towards Truro and the Minas Basin, you could still encounter these snow squalls if you're traveling that direction again over the next couple of hours. Additionally, there's some snow squalls around parts of Inverness and Victoria counties in Cape Breton. This is being driven by these colder winds coming in over the ocean waters. In a lot of cases, those winds are still high and gusty, sustained 20 to 50 kilometers per hour, but higher than that around some coastal areas, especially parts of the Atlantic coastline of Nova Scotia, and moving into the east, where some of the peak wind gusts have reached near 90 kilometers per hour. That's why this wind warning remains in effect, moving up through the eastern half of Halifax County, Guysborough County, and across Cape Breton. Now, the situation with the winds is going to be improving as we move through tonight as well. In fact, they should have diminished quite significantly for much of the region by around midnight. Still on the gusty side for parts of Prince Edward Island and Cape Breton at that time, but they'll diminish further heading into the start of the day for tomorrow. We do have some snow to talk about in the weekend forecast. There's also the potential for nor'easter Sunday night into Monday. And so, Todd, all of that coming up a little bit later on.
All right, we will see you later for that full forecast. Frustration is building in New Brunswick's forestry sector. Prices for some wood products have steadily declined, and producers insist they need more support now. CTV's Laura Brown reports.
Woodlot owner Rick Doucette is adamant. If he can't get a fair price, then his wood will not move.
But there's way too many people out there that, they just don't have the option. They got to pay their bills, and I think in that email you can see that their revenues are going down, their expenses are going up, and this is a recipe for total disaster.
A letter sent from the Carleton Victoria Forest Products Marketing Board to the province's Natural Resources Minister states some prices are the lowest in a decade. And while mills have been offered support through Ottawa's softwood lumber plan, private producers haven't seen a thing. Is the government's long-term plan for the private forestry sector to just disappear? Because that is what is happening under your watch. The minister wasn't available for an interview, but acknowledged in a statement that prices have been decreasing since October, which, coupled with the almost 10 years of tariffs, are making it increasingly difficult for New Brunswick mills to operate. As a result, the impacts are felt across the entire supply chain. Private producers have been struggling for years, according to Doucette. Even when prices were strong a few years ago, that money wasn't passed along to the producer. He believes the marketing system is broken.
The value of wood's been going down, and all the expenses and capital costs are going up, and eventually you're going to run into a wall, and everyone's just going to say, okay, I guess we're going to do something else. So I think we're getting close to the wall.
In an email, the province's biggest player, J.D. Irving, maintains prices are competitive, and the company bought a record amount of private wood last year. BDC, the firm handling the tariff support plan, says it hasn't received any requests for help from New Brunswick lumber businesses so far. Laura Brown, CTV News, Fredericton.
Maritimers woke up to a jump in gas prices today. The cost of fuel went up across the region. This as prices had been trending down. CTV's Vanessa Wright found out what flipped the switch.
Overnight, Maritimers were hit with a nasty jolt at the pumps.
Whatever the price is, I will pay it.
In Nova Scotia, gas prices went up nearly 5 cents a litre. It jumped by almost 4 cents in New Brunswick, and the same in Prince Edward Island.
It's always difficult when we see hikes in gas prices, especially in places like Atlantic Canada or the Maritimes where, driving is not really optional.
The price of diesel also went up, but experts say that's normal this time of year. But the gas hike comes just as prices were coming down.
It was a bit of a head fake that we saw prices drop as much as we did for the beginning of January. Now, we do see in December, around Christmas time, prices tend to drop generally.
So then why the sudden bump today? Petroleum experts say ongoing geopolitics has shaken the market.
Given the jittery nerves that we're seeing about things to do with Iran, Venezuela, and the United States, we're talking geopolitical issues that are kind of creating a little bit of nervousness in the market.
Even with the removal of the consumer carbon tax, the Canadian Taxpayers Federation says people are still feeling the effects of a hidden tax placed in fuel regulations.
And it's not just that. We're seeing a 10-cent per liter federal gas tax. Provincial gas taxes in the Maritimes range from about 8.5 cents per liter to 15.5 cents per liter. And then on top of that, you're seeing the HST. So the sales tax is actually placed on top of these other taxes. So you're paying taxes on tax.
With high prices just about everywhere else, Maritimers hoping things will smooth out at the pumps.
Do you hope it goes down in the next couple of weeks?
I would love to see the price of gas go down.
Well, believe it or not, gas is actually cheaper now than it was this time last year. It was 22% higher. Experts say prices will go down as political tensions cool off. Todd?
All right, Vanessa Wright in North End, Halifax, a windy North End, Halifax, it would appear. Thank you. International travelers landing at Halifax Stanfield International Airport will be welcomed at a new arrival center. It opened today.
So today we officially opened our International Connections facility. It is a two-phase project that we undertook several years ago. So if you're staying in Nova Scotia and in Canada, you will go through this big, new, beautiful space that we have launched, officially opening today.
The facility is designed to allow passengers to get connecting flights easier and quicker, and is a key part of the airport's ability to attract more international flights. And as you see here, travelers are welcomed with artwork celebrating Mi'kmaq culture, including the work of famed painter Alan Syliboy. People living in a rural corner of Cape Breton have had enough with break-ins and fires, including 2 homes that were burned to the ground. As CTV's Ryan McDonald reports, police confirm there has been a pattern of crime in the area for some years now.
Seamus MacDonald is still shaken up after a place he called home was reduced to ashes and rubble during an apparent crime spree in Benacadie, Nova Scotia on January 3rd.
At least 5 places were broken into, 2 were burned to the ground, and this was one of them.
MacDonald says it was an old farmhouse built by his great-grandfather more than 100 years ago. Between May and November of each year, he, along with his wife and 2 children, lived there.
Devastated. The whole family's been devastated by this, and we have 2 boys who are feeling confused and at a great loss.
I had my brother check his security system, and he seen my neighbor's property below me explode.
The same morning, this trailer just down the road burned to the ground too. The man who lived here wasn't there at the time, though neighbors say he was inside when his bungalow, which was on the same property, was set on fire nearly 2 years ago. Rod Farrell, who lives nearby, wants more police patrols in the area.
Yours could be next. Every time you go away, you don't know what's waiting for you when you come back. It's very, very upsetting.
Even though this is such a rural area, it still falls under the jurisdiction of the Cape Breton Regional Police, who say they are investigating the arsons here in this community and are looking for tips from the public. Police told us in an email today that since 2015, there have been 19 reported incidents of break and enter in the area, along with 4 reported structure fires, adding that they continue to make extra patrols. Back where his summer and fall home used to be, Seamus MacDonald says it wasn't insured and it's too soon to know if they might rebuild.
The fact of the matter is that if we had $1 million worth of insurance, it wouldn't replace what we lost in terms of family connections, sense of security.
Police say the cause of these fires has not yet been determined. Ryan McDonald, CTV News, Benacadie, Nova Scotia.
The city of Halifax is eager to get more commuters on its buses and ferries. The Transit Authority has new routes. There's talk of new buses and new ferries. But as CTV's Callum Smith reports, riders are still saddled with an old method of paying.
Exact change, pre-purchased tickets or passes, or electronically on the app. Those are the options to pay for transit fares in Halifax.
If it's a debit card and I just tap in and I go straight, then that will be good.
But simply tapping a card or smartphone isn't an option, despite years of talks.
That is really the global standard, so we have some catching up to do. The plan was launched in 2021 and it's 2026 now, so we've really got to get moving here.
This rider says purchasing ticket books from a drugstore isn't a big deal.
But I wouldn't mind having a tap to pay. I was in London last summer, and that's all you do.
Others say there's bigger fish to fry when it comes to the city's transit system.
Buses being on time, buses having more of a consistent schedule. I find more, especially now, buses just aren't showing up or they're really late.
But the upgraded payment system is late too. No one from Halifax Transit was available for an interview the last 3 days. A city spokesperson says there was a significant delay when it was determined all modems on buses would need to be replaced. That realization coming when these fare validators were installed, something that only wrapped up at the end of 2025. Now that the modems are ready, work is continuing on the open payment system, but the city isn't offering a definitive timeline. The mayor hopes to talk with councillors and Halifax Transit about trying to speed up the process.
I will be very disappointed if it's not this year.
We really want to see it as soon as possible. I'm assured it'll happen sometime this year.
Ultimately, it comes down to making transit more accessible.
We want to make it easier for transit users, and it would also help visitors to the city because you don't need to have as much familiarity with the system to use your credit card.
There will also be reloadable plastic cards. The city says it won't have a full cost for tap to pay until the rollout is complete. Callum Smith, CTV News, Halifax.
Get the Maritime's top stories, breaking news alerts, and watch live. Download the CTV News app.
Activity on Killarney Lake turned heads in Fredericton today. Firefighters were updating their training in water rescue. As CTV's Avery McRae shows us, it's timely given the uncertain state of ice in our freeze-thaw weather.
As Fredericton residents make plans to skate, fish, or just go for a walk on the city's frozen waterways, its firefighters will be ready if accidents arise.
It's a pretty common call for us to respond to either the river or the lakes for ice rescue.
Over the past 2 weeks, Fredericton fire crews have been coming out to Killarney Lake for ice water rescue training. Crews take turns rescuing one another and even themselves from the frigid waters using a wide range of equipment.
I think our original ice rescue equipment was a life jacket and a piece of rope. And to see everything that our crews are lucky enough to have today, you know, it's been a game changer.
By next week, all Fredericton fire engines will have ice water rescue equipment on their trucks. For crews, getting to train in a public setting is a benefit for the entire community.
I think that it's important for the people to see us out doing this because a lot of the times when people do see us, it's when something really bad is happening, right? So this is a chance for us to interact with people and, you know, just show them this is what we do and this is why we do it.
Not only does it benefit the public, but also the camaraderie among crews.
It's a great opportunity for senior members that have done this for years to kind of mentor those new members that we have, and it just builds that bond, like that family aspect that we kind of thrive on in the fire service.
If you see someone struggling on the icy waters, immediately call 911. Assistant Deputy Chief Harnham says you can also try and reach out to the person in distress with a stick or throw them a rope to help them get safely out of the water while avoiding putting yourself at risk. Avery McRae, CTV News, Fredericton.
Still to come, a more typical January cold is in place tonight. Kalen returns with his full forecast. But next, living in fear and uncertainty.
I didn't expect that millions of people take to the streets.
We speak with a pair of Maritimers who can't stop thinking and worrying about family in Iran. That story's next. Welcome back. Imagine being half a world away from family in a country in turmoil and unable to reach them. Well, that's a situation for two Maritimers watching and worrying about Iran. CTV's Derek Haggett spoke with them.
Maysam Bakhti hasn't heard from his family in Iran for almost a week. The Moncton lawyer's heart is broken over the violence that has occurred there over the past few weeks.
This regime does not respect any rule of law, and it does not respect the lives of its own people.
It's estimated close to 3,000 anti-government protesters have been killed since late December. An economic crisis spurred the massive protests in the capital. The Islamic Republic has cut internet access, preventing citizens from contacting family members around the world.
I didn't expect that millions of people take to the streets.
U.S. President Donald Trump has threatened retaliation for the protesters' deaths, something Bakhti would welcome.
What is going in Iran is so tragic that we have no other option but to welcome any foreign assistance.
USA action now! Sohaila Hashemi has been co-organizing rallies in Halifax all week and has had very brief contact with her family in Iran.
I never could imagine people would be under such a bloody situation.
Assistance from world powers would be welcomed, but she doesn't want to see American military intervention.
We don't need that. We just need the support. And just they are asking for dignity, for freedom, for democracy.
Despite the mass tragedy, both Iranian Canadians see a positive future for their country. Derek Haggett, CTV News, Moncton.
Still to come in your newscast, some snow and flurries in the weather for the next couple of days. Kaylin has the details. We'll have those right after the break. That is the handiwork of Daryl Reeves, one of our talented photojournalists who had the drone up over the farmlands, Shubenacadie. I believe this was that yesterday or today? It was yesterday. Yep.
Well, you know what strikes me about it? Could have been a view from the fall, right? Because, look, there's no snow cover there at all. And part of that is due to this very mild stretch of weather that we've had throughout this week. We'd like to see that snowpack built up a little bit more as we go over the winter time, because that'll help later on with any water or drought issues, or at least help mitigate them as we get closer to our drier season.
And the melt is good, right? Because you don't get rain hitting hard surfaces, and
it's so hard for much of the Maritimes to actually hold on to the moisture in the soil, right? Because it flows into the rivers and then it's out and towards into the ocean, right? So it'd be nice to get a little bit of snowpack built up, so we've got a little bit of reservoir.
Bit of melt.
Yeah, heading into the spring. All right, let's take a look at what's going on. Snow is likely adding up in a few spots. We've got some flurries and some snow squalls moving through this evening, and temperatures have certainly turned colder in a high and gusty west and northwest wind. Now, both the wind and the flurries and snow squalls with it will be diminishing as we make our way through this evening and tonight, so conditions generally improving. It is going to be a cold night for the Maritimes, more typical for what you would expect out of January instead of our very mild conditions that we've had throughout much of this week. Tomorrow in the forecast, in the morning, you can expect cloud cover to increase across the Maritimes, and that is going to be followed up by some snow developing into parts of New Brunswick as well as western areas of Nova Scotia. That starts in the afternoon, but then moves into other parts of the Maritimes as we head through Saturday evening and Saturday night. Now, in a lot of cases, it's going to be lighter snow or flurries, but there is potential for it to accumulate into some totals as high as 1 to 5 centimeters, maybe pockets of 5 to 10 for a few areas. One other thing I want to mention with the snows that's coming in is temperatures are turning a little bit milder tomorrow in parts of Nova Scotia. So for that province, it's likely to mix with or turn over to some rain showers, especially up and down the Atlantic coastline. I mentioned snowfall amounts possible for some areas with that coming in, especially around the southwestern corner of New Brunswick. That's where there could be some pockets getting up between 5 and 10 centimeters of snow. Other areas between 1 and 5 centimeters, mostly, might be a little bit more than that up in the Cape Breton Highlands. And there is, again, the potential for more significant snowfall for parts of the Maritimes coming up Sunday night into Monday. More on that in a moment. Low temperatures in the forecast for tonight around the region will be falling several degrees below the freezing mark, down to the minus teens for areas of New Brunswick and near minus 20 up around Edmundston in the northwest. Tomorrow, there is some recovery in the temperatures. It remains cold in northern New Brunswick, between minus 5 and minus 8. Those are your daytime highs there. But down through central and southern areas of New Brunswick, a light south wind allows some high temperatures to climb up between minus 3 and plus 2. Mildest, of course, in and around the Bay of Fundy coastline. Prince Edward Island for tomorrow, afternoon high temperatures between minus 3 and 0. In Cape Breton, the high temperatures tomorrow will be between around minus 3 and plus 1. And then getting up between 1 and 3 degrees for the north shore and eastern shore of Nova Scotia. Northern and central parts of the province with high temperatures between 0 and 3, including getting up to near 2 degrees for the city centers Halifax and Dartmouth, that after a cold start to the day. Near 2 degrees for the Annapolis Valley for tomorrow. Communities on the south shore of Nova Scotia with high temperatures between 3 and 5. Let's talk about the conditions coming up Sunday night into Monday. This is a nor'easter type weather system. Gets its legs under it just off the coastline of the Carolinas and then heads up towards the north very quickly. This is a weather system that's developing in the span of about 24 hours or so. The current path has it sliding past the Atlantic coastline of Nova Scotia Sunday night into Monday morning. That's likely to keep some colder air in place, so there is a potential for heavy snow for that province. Again, Sunday night into Monday morning, eastern parts of Prince Edward Island, with the snow becoming progressively lighter as you move back through New Brunswick. Now, with these type of weather systems, there's often a lot of variation with exact snowfall amounts for exact locations this far out, and seeing that with this weather system. But here's a general outlook for it. Potential for heavy snow, large area of Nova Scotia. Could be some snowfall amounts of 15 or more centimeters, so enough to be disruptive. Up and down the Atlantic coastline of Nova Scotia, you may see some ice pellets and freezing rain mix in. If that happens, it could hold snowfall amounts there just a little bit lower. And then you can see the snow expected to become lighter as you move up to New Brunswick. Mostly 5 centimeters or less, but there might be a few pockets right in the south of New Brunswick that could get up between 5 and 10 centimeters. So keep on top of your forecast this weekend. That's Sunday night into Monday morning period. And that's the forecast there for New Brunswick, Sunday into Monday. We do have some colder air returning next week, a mix of sun and cloud. Tuesday, on Wednesday, there'll be some flurries coming in Wednesday night, a mix of sun and cloud, seasonably cold temperatures on Thursday and Friday of next week. For Nova Scotia, in the outlook, again, watching for that snow to arrive Sunday night into Monday. And then in behind that, it's flurries in the forecast for Tuesday, colder temperatures extending into Wednesday, and there'll be a chance of flurries after that for Thursday and Friday. And for Prince Edward Island in the outlook, again, watching for some potential for some snow Sunday night into Monday morning. Flurries in the forecast for Tuesday, a little bit colder, highs around -2, -6 though on Wednesday. Flurries expected Wednesday night. And then we have a chance of flurries on Thursday and Friday of next week. Todd.
I know it's only January, but you have not used that term, nor'easter, very much this season.
No, and not lately, of course, with sort of the milder, rainy weather we've had going back over the past several days.
Yeah, it's nice when you don't say it. Thanks. We'll see you later in the show. Friday politics, and there is much to talk about with CTV pollster Nick Nanos. We'll do that right after this.
All right, enjoy your weekend and join us Monday for another chance to win $100,000 with Destroy Your Debt. Those keywords starting at 7 a.m.
And we're giving away the last pair of tickets to Crave Food and Drink.
Abused for years by a monster.
I thought, I need help.
Behind the worst mass killing in Canadian history.
I'm looking at him, but there was like nothing there.
A shocking story of survival.
Why isn't anybody coming?
In the shadow.
How much of that anger did you feel was directed at you?
All of it.
Of an unthinkable tragedy.
She went from being victim #1 to public enemy #1.
A CTV News special Sunday night, right after the game on CTV and Crave.
Friday politics now, lots to talk about. Tonight, CTV pollster Nick Nanos, principal of Nanos Research, joins us from Ottawa. Nick, let's start with the obvious, which is the Prime Minister coming home with a trade deal to wave around. They'll certainly be happy on the farms in Western Canada. Atlantic lobster fishermen certainly pleased with the reduction in tariffs. Ontario manufacturers, the auto sector in particular, will not be. How does the government play this?
Well, I think the government is hoping that it plays well because, you know what, Todd, you look at the national numbers, it's still like 39-36. It's not like there's a big advantage for the Liberals. The Conservatives and Liberals are, for all intents and purposes, still within the margin of error. Yes, you know, Carney does have an advantage over Pierre Poilievre, but when it comes to actual Canadians voting, it's not big. The Liberals are probably hoping that this helps them pull away from the Conservatives because it'll show that the Prime Minister is trying to do something. He's not making headway with the United States, and as a result, it looks like the Carney Liberals are focusing specifically on China as the other big economic player in order to help Western farmers, Atlantic Canadian commercial fishermen in the lobster industry, and to try to jumpstart a trade relationship that has been on the ropes for about 8 years with China.
Well, and let's face it, they're two big players, the United States and China. If you're going to lose with one, you better make up a bit with the other. Is that their view?
I think that's their view. And, you know, the thing is for Canada, we've got to basically do business with everyone. I think what we've learned is that through the stress with the United States, it's proven to us that we only have so much leverage, that we can't be dependent on any one country as a trading partner. Yes, the U.S. will continue to be a very important partner for Canada, but we have to look to diversify. China has to be at the top of the list. India has to be part of that. Europe has to be part of that. And I think what we've seen is a foray of Mark Carney into China to try to warm relationships that have really been on ice for the last number of years.
Well, it was interesting. I think everybody was kind of on tenterhooks thinking, you know, how would U.S. President Donald Trump respond to this? And this afternoon he said, well, if Canada can make a deal with China, they should take it. I think that may have surprised a few people. But look, it wasn't long ago, Nick, that, you know, this is very recent history, that China was called Canada's greatest security threat. We even had an inquiry into foreign interference. What about all that?
You know, it's interesting, Todd. When we did polling, we asked Canadians whether China should be a priority, a trade priority for Canada. And at its lowest ebb, I think it was like 5%. 1 out of every 20 Canadians thought China should be a priority. That's when we were dealing with the two Michaels and the Huawei executive and all that kind of stuff, when it was really bad. Well, fast forward, throw in Donald Trump, 51st state, the USMCA up in the air, and you know, that 5% has increased to 35%. 35% of Canadians thinking that China should be a trade priority. And I don't think this has anything to do with what China has done. It has everything to do with what Donald Trump has done. And it looks like it's created an opportunity for the Canadian government and the Chinese government to open a dialogue and try to build and rebuild that trade relationship that has been on the ropes for such a long time.
So what do you do if you're in the auto sector and you've seen this 49,000, which is not necessarily a huge number, 49,000 cars coming in at a low tariff from China? Does that pinch the auto industry, or, you know, how's that going to play out?
I think if you're a manufacturer, it does put stress on you. I think if you're a member of the United Auto Workers, you're probably thinking, are there going to be any jobs that come with these electric vehicles? That if Canada does allow China to play more in the Canadian automotive market, will there be jobs that follow? And actually, I think that's a valid question. Yeah. You know, it looks like what we need to do is to connect our trade to jobs. So yes, this is probably a first step in terms of making it a little easier for some electric vehicles from China to come in. But I think for a lot of Canadians, they'll be like, okay, like, where are the jobs? Because you know what? If we don't have jobs, there won't be people to buy these electric vehicles.
Yeah, well, yeah, very good point. Okay, let me do a left turn here. The Federal Court of Appeal just held up a ruling that the Liberal government did not have reasonable grounds to invoke the Emergency Act 4 years ago. Your response to that, how do you think that'll be? Matt, what does the government do with that?
Well, I think luckily this isn't the Trudeau government, because if it was, it would be a major problem. Yeah. It's probably, Todd, why don't we just put this as another example where Mark Carney, if he wants to, can throw Justin Trudeau under the bus once again for something that he's done that he might not have agreed with or he doesn't think is good politics. And I would expect that Carney will say, hey, that was them. The Carney government is a different government. Yeah. He's not going to defend what's happened in the past.
Okay. Pierre Poilievre was just in Nova Scotia, and he was in Yarmouth, the riding of former Conservative turned Liberal Chris d'Entremont. It's understood now that the federal Conservatives would like to get cozier with Nova Scotia and Ontario, the governments in those provinces. Is that something they have to do?
Well, I think that's something they should have always done. You know, the Conservatives have always done better federally when they're provincial counterparts. You think of Peter Lougheed and Brian Mulroney, for example, and, you know, you think of Bill Davis and, you know, all those, when the provincial premiers, when the provincial party premiers work with their federal counterparts, whether they're Liberal or Conservative, it's good for the party. So for Pierre Poilievre to work to mend fences and build bridges with the Nova Scotia government, you know, with the Alberta government, you know, even though they're not technically Conservatives, they're UCP, but also with the Ontario government is critical. And, you know, the thing is, we have to remember that the Premier of Nova Scotia and the Premier of Ontario have a very strong political and personal friendship. Building bridges with the Nova Scotia Premier is the gateway to Ontario from a political point of view for Pierre Poilievre.
Even though Tim Houston has gone to great lengths to tell everybody who will listen that he's not a Conservative, he's, in fact, progressive Conservatives, and there is a difference. So it'll be interesting to see how that warms up, if it does at all. Nick Nanos, always appreciate your perspective. Thank you very much.
Take it easy. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. We'll take a break. We'll be back with much more of your newscast. Health headlines now, and we look at why Health Canada has issued a recall for a bar of soap. CTV's Amanda Debison has more in the Friday edition of The Lifeline.
Health Canada is issuing a nationwide recall for a brand of soap due to a chemical hazard.
According to the recall notice, Lake of the Woods Sunrise Soap Company reported that around 400 units of its Shades of Grey bar of soap were sold in this country between January 2019 and this January. Sampling discovered the recalled soap contains a high concentration of methyl eugenol. The products were manufactured in Kenora, Ontario. There have been no reports of incidents or injuries. Winter weather can have an impact on anyone's body, but for migraine sufferers, the cold can also trigger an attack. Experts say extreme cold, changes in barometric pressure, and sudden weather changes combined can trigger vessels in the brain to dilate, causing inflammation and lead to sinus pressure.
There are a lot of ways to deal with, that sudden change in headache frequency. And that's where I think patients should reach out to their healthcare provider for that.
Health experts say avoiding those attacks start with being aware of what typically sparks them, like certain foods, caffeine, stress, and sleep issues. Finally, walking just 4,000 steps a few days a week could lower your risk of dying early and developing heart disease. Researchers in Boston tracked more than 13,000 women using step monitors for a week, then followed them for more than a decade to keep an eye on their health. Women who hit 4,000 steps once or twice a week had a 26% lower risk of dying from any cause and a 27% lower risk of having a major heart event like a heart attack. And it gets better. Women who reached 4,000 steps 3 or more times a week saw their overall risk of death drop by 40%. The study found a clear trend. Getting at least 4,000 steps per day, no matter how fast or far you go, or whether you take them all at once or at various points throughout the day, can pave the way to better health. With Health and Medical News, I'm Amanda Depison for the Lifeline.
Katie's off tonight, but we still have entertainment, and the hype over the hockey drama Heated Rivalry shows no sign of slowing down. The Canadian show On Crave has become a hit. It's all the talk in Hollywood. ABC's Chris Connolly spoke with the Maritime author behind the series.
I'm coming to the cottage.
It's the pop culture phenomenon that your friends in social media can't stop talking about.
What was that? Not everything is about you, Hollander.
HBO Max's hit Heated Rivalry, with its sizzling storylines and candid depictions of closeted male hockey players in lust and in love, has thrilled millions.
Я хочу только тебя. Не всегда только тебя.
Turning its leads Connor Story and Hudson Williams into overnight stars.
You think everyone in the audience has seen Heated Rivalry? That's a maybe. But their trainers have, and their moms have, and their daughters have.
Ilya, the Russian. Shane, the Canadian. Fiercely competitive on the ice. But off the ice, they're just figuring it out.
Hey. We're good here.
They're not the only heated rivalry couple heating things up.
I mean, the best one's the blueberry one.
Kip is a smoothie barista, navigating his relationship with team captain Scott Hunter. Actor Robbie G.K. recognizing what the show's representation has come to mean for so many.
It's almost like a bit of a haven that it creates within the storyline for people to find comfort in. And I think if I had known the impact and the gravity of that storyline, I definitely would have overthought things.
Amid all that on-screen passion, Heated Rivalry also capturing the tension and anguish of love that's forced to remain in the shadows.
You know, I think that there's a lot of ways in which a story like this can be told. In some of those ways, it could be kind of cringy or miss the mark, and I truly think that the team behind it is what made it special.
I have heard from quite a few heterosexual men who also have been letting me know that it's improved their marriage.
Author of the books that the show is derived from, Rachel Reed, driven to create these stories.
I've just been a hockey fan my whole life, but I've had a lot of problems with hockey culture, and this was a way for me to get a lot of those feelings out on paper.
Since its release, fans flocking to social media, praising the show for including characters who feel just like them, as those characters grapple with trying to live authentic lives.
I hope that people know that there's at least an option and there's a world that if they want to seek that out, there's somebody out there with open arms.
Like real-life hockey player Jesse Cordham, who publicly came out online this week. He says he did it for the teenager who carried a weight that did not seem to fit into that world.
He directly helped me realize that visibility matters. It finally allowed me to be that voice for so many that came before me to fight for hockey and inclusion in hockey.
Chris Connolly, ABC News, Los Angeles.
The big story that started on the East Coast. Here's a look at what's on TV tonight. Business now, and the Dow Jones wrapped up the trading week down 83 points. Canada Mortgage and Housing Corporation released its numbers that show which cities had the biggest new residential growth. Here's BNN Bloomberg's Morella Fernandez.
Canadian housing starts were up 5.6% last year, with more new rental housing being built. There was a 58% increase year over year in the number of starts in Montreal. And both Calgary and Edmonton had a record number of starts in 2025. Toronto, on the other hand, saw housing starts drop 31%. Here are the closing numbers for the day. The Canadian dollar is down to 71.86. West Texas Intermediate is up to 59.34. Western Canadian Select is down $2.67 to 44.84. And the TSX gained only 11 points, but enough for a new record close. Those are your business headlines. I'm Morella Fernandez.
Friday night in the Maritimes, and Kaylin has a last look at weather.
Yeah, this is definitely feeling like a January night out here in the north end of Halifax. It is gusty, it is cold, and there are flurries flying at the moment. Remember, the winds are expected to improve as we make our way through tonight. The snow squall is diminishing, but the colder temperatures will be hanging around at the start of the day for tomorrow. For your picture for tonight is a beautiful shot coming in from Debbie Smith from Weldon, New Brunswick. I want to thank Debbie very much for sharing this picture with us. The Weldon area for tomorrow can expect increasing cloudiness throughout the day and a high temperature near zero. There will be some snow that arrives for the evening, and it could be as much as around 1 to 5 centimeters. Day planner for tomorrow. Here's our start across the Maritime region. Partly cloudy and cold. Temperatures several degrees below zero. Some down into the minus teens, especially in the province of New Brunswick. And then for the afternoon, we see that snow work its way into western areas of New Brunswick and a mixture of snow and rain areas of Nova Scotia. And again, some of that snow expected to become more widespread for the region as we head into Saturday evening. Let's find out what's coming up next week on Your Morning Atlantic.
Monday on Your Morning Atlantic, what's in the big bucket?
We're teaming up with our partners at Kent Building Supplies for the first of our new monthly contest. We know you'll be excited about this prize.
Start your morning with us Monday on Your Morning Atlantic on CTV2 and Crave.
And here on Monday, the New Deal. Fresh from trade talks with China, the PM's parliamentary secretary joins us to talk about a new era in relations with that country. Cody Blois, here Monday at 6. Finally tonight, Friday marks a day to not celebrate anything. That's right, it is International Nothing Day. So you may be wondering what to do to celebrate. So are we. So it's helpful to understand where this day came from. Back in 1972, San Francisco Examiner journalist Harold Coffin started it. He was tired of the number of groups claiming to have a day to celebrate something or other. You can look forward to a day of nothing on this day every year. That is our look at the day here at home. Bruce Frisco, right in this chair at 11:30. CTV News Atlantic.ca has the weekend reporting. We leave you tonight with the goats in Lawrencetown, Nova Scotia, and the names of everyone who works on this newscast. I'm Todd Battis. I'll see you Monday. Have a great weekend.
CTV News, the Maritime's #1 newscast. Watch live on Crave.